What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six podcast. Katie Mox and Will Brinson here, joined by our Pick Show squad, Alex Selelnick and Emory Hunt of Sportsline. This episode of Pick Six is presented by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. The last episode, the Super Friends went through Week 12 of the NFL season. Breach, Wilson, and Brinson discussed the Eagles' walk-off winner in overtime and the Broncos' surging playoff chances. They also did an emergency pod today on the Frank Reich firing. You want to hit us with a couple points here on that and why they should tune in, Brinson?
Yeah. I also wrote a scathing 2,000-word article. I actually wrote most of it like when the Panthers lost to the Bears. But I was like, I didn't finish it. I was like, it was like Friday afternoon. I needed to go back and edit it one more time. And at like, a couple weeks ago on Thursday, I was like, it feels like it's kind of died down, but I was like, I'll just wait till they fire Frank Reich in a couple of weeks, and then I'll just send it in. And so I went through and edited it again today, but ran it on CBSSports.com. You can check it out. It's basically the summation is the Panthers have a David Tepper problem, and that's thank you. Look at that. Shout out Harry. Put it in the chat, and it's also like I think a good summation of the emergency podcast as well. Because it's my opinion and belief that when you are on your seventh head coach since buying the team in 2018, including interims, and you fire 3 coaches mid-season, including Frank Reich, 11 games into his first year. Urban Meyer got 13 games, by the way. Yeah. That maybe you are a little too quick with the trigger finger, and that you believe that you can just make football work. And football is not like, running a hedge fund is really difficult. You made a bunch of money doing it, buying distressed assets, especially in the financial when the financial crash happened. This ain't it, man. You don't get to buy on the you can use the principles when it comes to football and invest in distressed assets. Like I get trying to do that with Sam Darnold, but you ever paid for it. But it's you can't just buy your way to being good in the NFL. It doesn't work like that, and you have to have a smart understanding of hiring football people to do football things and letting them do the football things. And David Tepper's just not doing that. He's little greasy fingerprints all over everything.
He does. If you want to watch that emergency pod and the last episode, head over to our YouTube channel, or if you're listening to the audio version, make sure that you check that out wherever you get your podcast. While you're there, feel free to subscribe and like and comment. Also, Adam Schefter reporting Panthers fired assistant head coach and running back coach Deuce Staley as well. Emory,
fire whoever you want. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, I want to get Emory's thoughts real quick because he is the running back whisperer of the team.
Well, remember, Deuce Staley was always up for the head coaching job in Philly or up for a head coaching job around the NFL. He was the Eric Bieniemy, also a former running back, before Eric Bieniemy was the popular name, right? And so you wonder what happened from all of that buzz he was getting, a few years ago to now. I think things start to go south for him when he was passed over for that OC job in Philly or the head coaching job. A lot of players like Deuce Staley. He develops guys, develop talent. Hopefully at some point he'll get a head coaching opportunity, but it's just weird to see how you go from being the next head coaching candidate to now twice fired or moved on from a position. So fascinating.
Well, Steve Wilkes would like a word as well. Something very similar.
I mean, we could go all the way back to what Sherman with the Vikings or Green Bay and how he was always a head coaching candidate, Sherman Lewis, I'm sorry. And then next thing you know, that job never came about.
Well, I mean, like Bieniemy's going to end up Eric Bieniemy under that same sort of spot where
right.
One more, he's probably going to get fired in Washington because they're going to fire everybody because they're not good and they got a new owner and landed maybe an OC job or a quarterback job or a running back job or something. I guess be a running back coach job or an OC job, and then may or may not.
I mean, Pep Hamilton was the same way. So it's always fascinating to see these things sort of play out over the course of the time I've been watching NFL.
Yeah. Again, if you guys want to listen to the emergency pod, it is Brinson and Breach, and you can find that on our YouTube channel and anywhere that you get your podcasts. We're going to talk. Yes.
By the way, just real quick before we get in, I hope you all listened to me last Monday.
Oh, okay.
And smashed that NC State plus 2.5 at home because we crushed Carolina 39-20, an absolute beatdown.
Wow.
39-20 was the beatdown. I mean, I think I also, if y'all listened to me last week,
ULM, right? Yeah, ULL.
Hold on. Let me reiterate for the listening public out there. 52-21, UL Monroe goes to Johnson, lose our phone number, no access, about nothing no more. Get out of our face. And they fired Coach Bowden too, by the way. I'm a big Bowden fan, but that game.
Which Bowden? Terry
Bowden.
Oh, it's a shame.
Well, I was wrong. I said don't take any points with San Jose State, and they beat UNLV 37-30.
You should have moneyline parlay the alma maters.
Should have. God, we got to do that. All right, let's move on and talk week 13 here. But before we do, a little quick recap of week 12. Home and away, 5-5-1 overall. The favorites went 9-1-1 against the spread. It was the most profitable week for favorites in a long time. Home favorites also 4-0-1 against the spread. Unders reign supreme, but barely, just 6-5 this week. Any big takeaways, Propstarz, from week 12?
As far as the prop market is concerned, nothing glaring. I will say that my biggest takeaway is how resilient the Philadelphia Eagles are, Katie.
Yeah.
Watching them play, it was phenomenal seeing that comeback victory against the Buffalo Bills. And now we're going to be sitting on the opposite side of the fence all week, you and I, Katie. So I was hoping we could come up with some type of creative bet with your 49ers facing my Eagles this week.
Oh, yes, we certainly can. Yeah, you know what? As much as I wish that the Eagles will go away, y'all just keep finding ways to win.
Niners are favored, though.
Niners are favorite, and the line's moving. Open up at 1. It's already gone all the way up to 3, favoring the 49ers, which is interesting. Feels slightly trappy, like they're baiting people to take the points with the Eagles. But anyways, we'll get into that one a little bit later. Let's talk now. Week 13.
Just really quickly on week 12, if you don't mind.
Yeah. Please.
I thought it was notable that favorites. I did really well because I went full like I was when I was making my picks, I was like, this does not feel good. Like I'm like taking like basically all these favorites, and I was really concerned about it. I was like, it's Thanksgiving. I don't feel like I don't have time to do. And we saw obviously Detroit lost straight up at home as a favorite, but Dallas rolled, San Fran rolled, the Dolphins rolled. So it was short week favorites did really well. And overall favorites just dominated. I think it's probably mostly matchup based, as we say, basically every week here. But at the same time, I think in this particular case, you saw like Cleveland, Denver, Russell Wilson versus DTR/PJ Walker, right? Cincinnati and Pittsburgh, Kenny Pickett, not great, but against Jake Browning, right? Baltimore's kind of lucky to cover, but it just felt like KC, Las Vegas. KC's a really good team, and Las Vegas is not. Like it feels like some of these. The Rams and the Cardinals, there's just some separation really starting to pull apart when it comes to these lines. And I think because we're going to get all these divisional matchups down the road, we might see some really, really big lines, like a lot of weeks where we have like a ton of 7+ points, 7-point spreads or more across the board.
I will tap in my 12-team parlay.
Hit?
No.
Oh.
Houston didn't win, so that blew it out the water. But everywhere else.
You got 11 to 12?
Oh.
Because it was a combination of against the spread and also unders was cashing like crazy for me. But that I had Houston on the money line and they lost. So
that was the only loss that I had last week too, is I took Houston plus the 1.5 and that field goal. Oh, it's just a little too long. Couldn't exactly get it there. But let's move on to week 13 here, guys, because we got a lot of games that we have to get through. The Seahawks at the Cowboys. This line 7.5, total 46.5. Let's see if this line has changed. No, it stayed. Hawks on a 2-game losing streak, and they take on the red hot Dallas team coming off complete domination of the Commanders, 45-10. This might be one where you look at the over, is what I'm thinking here. The over is hit in 7 of the Cowboys' 11 games this season, including 4 of their last 5. It's also 4-1 at home. I know that their defense is really good, but I still believe in the Seahawks and their ability to move the ball. So I kind of look like this over. But Emory, you think that the Seahawks are questionable where the Cowboys are strongest. What do you mean?
Well, yeah, when you think about the Dallas Cowboys, they can get pressure on the quarterback. Cool. Seahawks have problems protecting Geno Smith. That's a bad matchup right there. Seahawks secondary, questionable in terms of how ticky-tacky these refs are going to call illegal contact, or do they have enough corners to match up versus the speed and explosiveness of the Cowboys? That's a favor. That's a favor going toward Dallas. Also, Dallas's offensive line, quiet as kept, has been outstanding all season long, which gives Dak Prescott time to air it out to that against that secondary. Where else the Seahawks have issues, they can't really get after the quarterback. So I can see the Cowboys covering this spread while it being a competitive game. But I just feel like the Cowboys match up, well against where the Seahawks have some questions about their personnel.
Tyler Smith, man, whew, he is a good player. I mean, it's like every 10 years, the Cowboys land like a superstar offensive lineman named T. Smith.
And if you think about the Cowboys, if you think about Seahawks, if they don't have the combination of Walker and Charbonnet, if it's just Charbonnet, that's a problem for this offense.
I was really disappointed how they used Charbonnet too against the 49ers. You're trailing, like just dump it off to Charbonnet left and right. I think this is one of those where if you want to take anything, take the Cowboys early. I think this line creeps up a little bit, maybe like to 8.5. The Cowboys are dominant at home. There's some crushing teams at home. This is a Seahawks team that is really banged up. And if you make them one-dimensional and they don't have Kenneth Walker, I think it's a problematic situation. That's where Dallas has really been thriving all season long at home too, where they get teams down and then just prey on them with continuing to attack. Dak Prescott's playing awesome, and then Deron Bland obviously has more touchdowns than I think the Panthers do.
And Propstarz, the Seahawks, I know you were high on coming into this season, as was RJ, actually, as was Emory as well. They're down 2 games right now. They've got a really hard stretch coming up. What are your thoughts on their on the outlook so far?
This is just a brutal 4-game stretch. I think it's as difficult as any 4-game stretch for any team in the NFL. The 49ers twice, the Eagles and the Cowboys, just very difficult there. I think, splitting these games would have been optimistic. Now I just think going 1-3 over these 4 games would be somewhat of a win at this point for the Seahawks. Tough sledding for them. As far as the Cowboys are concerned, Emory mentioned the offensive line has quietly been phenomenal. Tony Pollard also showing some signs of life. He had been one of the least efficient running backs in the NFL this season. The last 2 weeks, he's averaged over 5 yards per carry, arguably had his best game of the season besides week 1 against the Giants last week or just a few days ago against the Commanders. So good to see the run game starting to come together for Dallas as they make a push, obviously, with high aspirations to play for the Super Bowl.
All right. Next up on the docket, that game obviously Thursday, by the way. Chargers at the Patriots. What a fascinating line. Chargers -6 in New England. Bill Belichick's new team coming to town to play his current team. The total here, 40.5. The Patriots just lost to Tommy DeVito.
Did you just say his new team? Or are you just
Belichick's either David Tepper's trading for Belichick and giving him like the key to the kingdom and letting him run everything, and then like somehow firing him mid-season of next year, which would just be the worst way to go out if you're Belichick. Like you get traded to the Panthers and they get fired mid-season. I actually don't think it's like insane to suggest he might go to Carolina, but I think more likely he goes to Los Angeles when they fire Brandon Staley. I don't, this look at it was 4.5 and open to the Chargers -4.5. The Chargers hung around with the Ravens and just managed to shoot themselves in the foot enough where they couldn't even cover. It's remarkable. People were like, Zay Flowers and more veteran player would have gone down. It's like, well, I as a Ravens backer, I'm glad that he didn't. But you know what? The Chargers shouldn't have been trying to tackle him. What are you tackling him to the 1 yard line? The game's over. You let him score. You have 1 timeout left. You're fools for trying to tackle him. That's Brandon Staley's crew trying to tackle this guy at the 5 yard line. If they tackle Zay Flowers, the game is over. The Ravens can knee it out. You need to dive out of the way and let him score. I think that just sort of kind of flew under the radar. I mean, Austin Eckler's banged up. Keenan Allen is great. But
First of all, let's talk about that Zay Flowers touchdown, though, because that swung millions of dollars at the sportsbook. If you had the Ravens to cover, that touchdown put you over. And of course, if you're on the Chargers side, it was an absolute.
It was like a $175 flip in DFS for me. I mean, a showdown. I was like, crap, I'm losing money. I was like, oh, cool, I'm making money now because he just jailbroke it. Yeah, it was a huge flip. It's
I wish players would do that more often. It was risky. Obviously, you still left a minute and a half on the clock for Justin Herbert to do what Justin Herbert can
Yeah,
do.
if he goes down and they take knees, it's over. But I mean, like, yeah, I'm all for extra touchdowns. He's a rookie. He's fighting against the guys who are coming after him. I was just saying the Chargers should have been like fake diving at him and let him run through the end zone. 6 feels like way too many points for the Patriots against a Chargers team that is like just cannot win by more than 3 points. But man, the Patriots are just the worst team, like second worst team in football. They are awful. Bill Belichick just lost to Tommy DeVito.
It's getting harder to make fun of Tommy DeVito. I've decided I actually love him and I love his family, and I'm on.
Tommy DeVito has as many wins as Bill Belichick does this season.
Oh wow, yeah.
Any thoughts on this game, guys?
I will say this. Everybody's talking about Zay Flowers and talk all this. Everyone is talking about all the other things except Surfer Kirk Cousins and why he always fails in those clutch moments.
Yeah.
I digress. I concede my time.
I appreciate you calling him Surfer Kirk Cousins and not Beachbody Stafford on this podcast, Emory.
It's switched. Both are applicable.
Prop, you had something there?
Yeah, shaping up to be a lost season for this Chargers team. Obviously, like most seasons, a lot of people had high expectations coming into the year. Obviously, a lot of talent on this roster, but the injury is really starting to stack up. You mentioned Austin Eckler. Brinson does not look anywhere close to 100%. He lacks his normal burst and lateral quickness, making a ton of uncharacteristic drops as well. It's just been the Keenan Allen show, who leads the NFL in receptions. Pretty impressive at this stage of his career. He's performing at this level, but just no secondary or tertiary help for Justin Herbert, with Josh Palmer on IR. Obviously, Mike Williams there as well. So someone needs to step up for this Chargers team. The rookie Quentin Johnson looks like he's a ways away from being a regular, consistent contributor. So, yeah, I just think this Chargers team is going to continue to really struggle, and they are who they are, basically.
Cardinals at the Steelers. Look at line with Steelers minus 2.5. The Steelers, this is like so insane. The final game before the Steelers hired Matt Canada, they went for 400 plus yards. The entire time Matt Canada was the offensive coordinator, they never topped 400 yards once. And then the very first game after they fire Matt Canada, they top 400 yards. That's why you're seeing the Steelers laying 5.5 against the Cardinals. Jalen Warren, Najee Harris, both got involved there, played well. I thought. Prop. Do you have a? What were the? Do you have snap counts for those guys? I know Najee got in the end zone, but I feel like Jalen played better overall.
Yeah, I think it was close to an even split with snaps and carries. Both backs have been good. Obviously, everyone wanting Jalen Warren to be more involved seems to be in close to a 50-50 split in the backfield. But Najee has quietly been pretty solid as well. So good to see both backs performing. Obviously, in a game, a spot like yesterday, you saw them both be fairly productive, or very productive, actually. So, yeah, it's good to see this backfield kind of taking shape, making things a lot easier for everyone else on the field as well when you have that run game working like it is. So, yeah, both backs look good.
Any thoughts there, Avery, on post Matt Canada life?
You know, it's funny. It ties into something I wanted to say about the Giants-Patriots game, because you saw giant beat writers and fanalists and bloggers praising the explosive plays of Tommy DeVito, right? And then you see everyone talking about the Matt Canada less 400 yards offense. But I watched both games, right? Giants scored 10 points, and these people over here in Pittsburgh scored 16 points. Mm-hmm. Quarterback is still a problem for both teams.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Let's move on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But the vibes are higher in New York, just based on the movement alone.
They listen.
Some fans are mad that they're not tanking. They're mad that they're winning games.
I was at training camp with the Giants beat writer, and I told the person that Saquon had the leverage to hold out. And the person said, "Why?" I was like, "Well, let's look at this schedule. They're staring 2-8 in the face. And lo and behold, last week they were what? 2-8. The person was like, "Nah, there's no way they could be 2-8 because they got Hodgins and they got Paris Campbell." I'm like,
Darren Waller,
this tough, and now so everybody's buying into DeVito. Like, if I hear one more time about this doggone chicken parm sandwich, and as if that's a true Italian dish, Like come on, man.
It's a
So,
true Jersey Italian dish. I don't know if it's like an authentic Italian dish. There are two. There's the Jersey,
New Jersey also
and the
not
Brooklyn
Italy.
Italians,
I
and
understand
then
there's lots
there's
of Italians there, but like
everybody
New
else.
Jersey, not Italy, even though there are
Yeah.
a lot of Italians there, right? I mean, like
It's a different breed of Italian.
Yeah.
As someone that lives,
they're
Emory,
Americans.
you live in Jersey,
They're
you live in the dirty
Americans.
Jersey.
I mean,
You
so
know.
funny. It's so funny. 10 points to 16 points. But yeah, I mean, but I digress.
I think for both teams in this case, it's like
It's at least watchable. Put it that way. It's at
right,
least
like Tommy DeVito's like a fun, crazy story. He's won 2 games against. It's not like he's been great, but he's beat the Commanders, who beat the Patriots. Like he's won 2 games for him, and it's gotten the Giants from a place where it's like they're not going to fire everybody, are they? To like, okay, this is just sort of a a regression season, and then with the Steelers, just like, all right. We've been outgained every single game, the first 10 games of the season, but maybe now that Matt Canada's gone, we can actually be decent. But yeah, I agree. Quarterback problems for both of them.
Yeah. All right. How about a place that's not really having quarterback problems? The Broncos at the Texans. Texans are laying 3.5 now. I feel like this line changed. Yeah, 3.5. This total 46.5. The Broncos have now won 5 in a row after starting really, really, really bad. But I also just feel like they've had some luck with like the turnovers. I mean, the Browns fumbled 3 times. They were able to recover those last week. To me, I think this Broncos team seems a little bit fraudulent. I don't think that they're necessarily a big playoff team coming up here, where the Texans are the real deal. This line opened up at 2.5. It's already up to 3.5. I would grab the Texans now. But Emory, you're impressed with what the Broncos have put together on defense after how they started.
Absolutely. And I find it rich, Miss Catherine J. Mox, that you speak of luck and Miss Big Brock Purdy fan over there. Talk about how he was living right the whole last season. But you're right. There is luck in terms of having, turnover. You can't really count on turnover.
I've never denied he threw some picks that should have been picks.
Right. We're not going to count non-picks, right? You catch them or you don't.
Yeah.
But the Broncos defense has been outstanding. And when you think about how Stroud plays and what makes him great is the fact that he's able to create off schedule. He's able to buy time. The Broncos don't give you that luxury because they collapse a pocket. They tend to close things around you, and they really do a great job of getting quarterbacks on the ground. So Stroud is going to have to play as the X's and O's are called, and is going to have to really slowly work himself down the field. So the Broncos do a great job of mucking it up, pulling you down the mud with them. And now on the other side, a defense that tends to give up the big play and has struggled at times to get off the field on third downs will have to continue to stop the run on first down, stop the short outlet pass. This game is going to scream under for me. And I do like the Broncos to win this one as well.
So worth noting New York Times playoff predictor upshot. Just looking at for the Broncos. Broncos currently 34% chance to make the playoffs. If they win this game, it jumps up to 58.
Wow.
If they lose this game, it drops down to 18. And for the Houston Texans, if the Texans win this game, they have a 58% chance to make the playoffs right now. Win jumps up to 73, drop down to 38 if they lose. This is one of the more pivotal matchups of the entire season when it comes to, all right, we're in the thick of things. It's week 13. This game is going to determine probably like one of the wild card spots in the AFC. Now, both teams could still make it, a little bit less likely because they're playing each other, but win this and you're in great shape for the playoffs if you're either team. I like the Broncos to keep it within 3. And if you're giving me a full field goal, Russell Wilson and the Broncos are playing 1-score games right now, and I don't think Houston's necessarily going to blow them out with the way that the Broncos defense is playing. So I'll take the Broncos here, although I don't know that it's going to like crater down to a pick or anything. All right.
Wait, hold on. Prop's got one.
Prop, what's up?
I love the under here personally. I thought Emory hit the nail on the head. Denver's defense has looked very good. They've only allowed one opponent to eclipse 20 points over their last 6 games. And if you look at some of the opposition there, it's all the more impressive. They also really grind and they play at a very slow pace as well. So I think this game is a great spot to look under here. I love Emory's take.
Lions at the Saints, another mid-40s total here. The Lions are minus 4.5. Saints getting a little bit of juice in the Superdome. Dan Campbell revenge game. Remember he played for the Saints actually as a tight end. I guess.
Oh
I don't know
yeah.
if that qualifies or not, but or he's tight ends coach for the Saints maybe. Anyway, Lions are minus 4.5 at the Saints. A total of 45. 5.5. I guess Derek Carr is going to keep checking down Charlie. I'll tell you this much. If the Saints went to Jameis Winston this game, it is an absolute 50-unit whale banger play on the over at 45.5. Like Jameis Winston and the Lions offense and like the Lions defense and their ability to like turn people over and like the Saints like getting like this game will go way, way over if Jameis Winston plays. But shout out to Derek Carr for giving Chris Olave a bunch of receiving yards until he got him concussed by overthrowing it on the sideline.
Yeah, what a bummer.
Yep.
Prop, you want to mention anything about the receivers?
Yeah, Katie, it was funny that you pointed out to me how well Olave was playing, and then moments later, Katie, he was concussed and ruled out. So you did jinx him, Katie. But yeah,
sorry, Olave.
It's looking grim in the receiver room in New Orleans. Rashid Shaheed as well banged up. We know Michael Thomas on injured reserve. Olave concussed. Lynn Bowden, I believe, was their top receiver. Probably see a lot of Taysom Hill as well if Olave is not cleared in time and Shaheed misses the game. So probably a situation to avoid overall. Obviously, when you can play Taysom Hill if he has tight end eligibility, that gives you an advantage if he's running that many routes there. So he's someone I would have my eye on. But aside from that,
would probably look at Alvin Kamara over receptions if all these guys are out. I could see Carr seriously checking it down, getting him in the flats, just getting Kamara involved, or over under receiving yards maybe.
All right, guys, we're going to take a quick break here, but stick around for our anticipation plays where we try and beat the line movement in the upcoming week. We'll see you in a sec.
Time is ticking in the group stage, with first place finishes up for grabs and spots in the knockout stage on the line. Every second is crucial. The UEFA Champions League on CBS Sports Network and streaming live on Paramount+.
It's time again for our segment where we give you a bet that you should lock in early before the line moves to get some closing line value. CLV, baby. We also do you one better and try to predict where that line is going to go, where it will close at. It's time for our anticipations play. This anticipation play segment is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Last week, I said to grab the under 44 at the Niners. Thought it moved to 41. I don't know where it ended up closing, but it ended right at 44. So that was a push if you took either of those.
I had the Cowboys going from 10.5 to 12, and I shorted it.
Yeah.
It actually went up to 12.5 or 13 by kickoff on Thursday, and they covered quite easily.
Yes.
Emory had the Dolphins, and they got there too. They were bigger favorites by the time they kicked off on Friday. And Alex had the Jacksonville-Houston over. I'm not sure if it climbed up. It didn't end up going over, surprisingly. I think they had a couple red zone turnovers. Prop, what do you have this week? You go back to
it did climb up. It did climb up for the record. But I'm going for another spot with Houston, this time under, though. Mentioned this after Emory gave that great take on why he likes the under there. Denver versus Houston. I'm shocked this is the same number that we got last week with Houston versus Jacksonville. Houston versus Denver now, obviously. I just think Denver's defense is severely underrated. They're playing very well at the moment. I just think this game environment is going to lend itself to be low scoring as well. We know the Broncos play at one of the slowest paces. They use more clock than any team in the NFL. In my opinion, that's by design. I think this is a great spot to look under here. I think this ultimately closes around 45.
Emory.
Yeah, I'd like San Francisco to go from 2.5 point favorites to 3 point favorites. I feel like everyone is going to talk themselves into San Francisco. We're going to see a lot of Brock Purdy highlights all week long. Bosa and Chase,
you think they're going to go 3 point favorites or 3 point underdogs?
Favorites.
Oh, okay. It's written on there as +3. I was like, I can't wait to hear what Emory has to say about this one. Okay.
Right.
I was like, how is this crossing through zero? What injury are you predicting?
No, I think everyone is, still, because all we're going to hear from the media outlets, as we are also part of media, is that the Eagles, find a way to win or luck. And you're going to hear that term that or the things around that. And that's going to swing everything up towards San Francisco. And we're going to get a great game between the two.
Yeah, we are going to get a great game between the two. I'm obviously looking forward to it, as I'm sure Propstarz is as well. And yeah, I mean, this line opened up at 1. It's already gone to 2.5. It was 1.5 last night. And so I wouldn't be surprised if it continues to move to, but over 3 would be wild. I already still think it's kind of wild. I'm looking at the Texans going against Will there, -3.5. This line opened up at 2.5. Look, I think that what Trevor Lawrence was able to do, I'm just not sure that Russell Wilson can get there. I think this line could move even a little bit further to -4. So I am going to grab it at the -3.5. This anticipation play.
I'm going back to the Cowboys well, by the way.
Oh, sorry. Did I skip you?
That's okay. Cowboys -7.5. I think it gets to 8.5, maybe 9. This Thursday game, I think you'll see a flood of Cowboys money coming in. It is in Dallas, obviously. They played great at home, and Seattle just really reeling with injuries right now, and the Cowboys kind of rolling, so I think it moves up.
Yes. Sorry. I can't believe I skipped you on that one.
Okay.
This anticipation play segment has been brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. All right. The Colts are laying 2 at the Titans. This total 42.5. The Colts beat the Titans, I believe, earlier this year, right? In October. And that was Anthony Richardson's last game. And when Minshew took over, Colts coming off a 27-20 win against the Buccaneers. Titans coming off a 17-10 win against the lowly Carolina Panthers that don't have their coach or running backs coach anymore. I like the Colts here. I would lay the 2 with the Colts. They're 4-1 on the road this season. They've already beat Nashville. They've already beat the Titans, and I think they can do it again on the road. Emory, what do you think?
It's funny watching the Colts play. They are playing like the Titans play when they were healthy with Tannehill last year, whatnot. And they're doing what the Titans have done all season long. They've won with the run game. Now that Jonathan Taylor is healthy and they have a great 1-2 punch, with Zach Moss, and their defense is still very good. And when Minshew doesn't turn the ball over, they're actually very difficult to beat. They really do a great job of playing situational football. I know he had a turnover yesterday, but I thought that was more of a miscommunication. The receiver should have kept going out. He threw it out and receivers settled. So they kind of read it both the same way, but it just ended up being a bad result. But he really played better than Baker Mayfield yesterday. And when you think about the run game and how that works, and the Colts are still currently sitting at the 7th seed. So they really need to keep winning this ball game. And again, if you listen to this podcast and you listen to a lot of stuff that I'm on, you end up being a lot more right than everything. And I know a lot of people want to gloss over it and kind of make jokes about it and laugh, but we always tend to be right over here.
I just like that it's like you're like, I just be hilarious when your Indianapolis take is correct because of Gardner Minshew. But I mean, like, you are wrong though. Like, this Indianapolis team is like well coached. Shane Steichen's doing a good job. I tend to think that there's rumors Vrabel got the win against Carolina, but they didn't really like dominate Carolina. Panthers could have won that game. Bryce Young got the ball with a chance to go score. 5-point yards per play for the Titans. 3.9 for the Panthers. I mean, just a sad offense. I think Indy I think they can get this done here. I wouldn't be surprised if this moved up to 3 either. But I mean, obviously, divisional matchup, second matchup, you expect to see less points, closer game. So got to be a little careful here. And Vrabel as a dog at home is a little bit spooky as well. Falcons at the Jets. Another short road favorite. See, you can always kind of see this with the themes that pop up, of course, across the week. Short road favorites appear to be, or just road favorites appear to be sort of the jour, whatever the du jour, the line du jour for this week. Total here 34.5, and the under catching juice over at FanDuel -115. The Jets also catching juice. I think this is pretty easy. You should take the Jets now. The Falcons, the look at line was Falcons -1.5. The Jets are not good. Offensively, they're a disaster. Tim Boyle last Friday threw a 99-yard Hail Mary pick 6. Never seen it before.
Sorry.
We were riding in the car back to Raleigh with my brother and had to explain, like,
Never seen it before.
like, yo, dude, like, this is what happened. Charlie's like, what are you talking about? That's not a thing. I'm like, no, he threw a Hail Mary into the end zone. The guy caught it. The Hail Mary. That's
Hail
right.
Mary, yeah.
When you have a total of 34.5 and you can get a home team catching 3 points against an Arthur Smith team that doesn't like to blow anybody out, and the Falcons, and you have a good defense, I think it's a no-brainer to take the Jets now at +3.
Well, isn't Aaron Rodgers going to be practicing this week? Doesn't he anticipate that he will
Christmas Eve is the anticipation.
I don't know why he would even say, like, there is no point in him coming back this season.
By the way,
From a football side of things, you look at how the Falcons are playing. They run the ball well. They play great defense. They're playing exactly how the Jets want to play. The problem is the Jets don't have any good quarterback play to speak of. And when you think about Ritter, funny, we were just talking about Minshew. He plays exactly like Minshew. You really never know what you're going to get from Desmond Ritter. You can get the great throw, and then you get the red zone interception or the fumble. So that could keep both teams in the ball game, but the Falcons will win, because it's funny how people were shocked at how Tim Boyle played. And when his whole career, he's thrown more interception touchdowns, and lo and behold,
he's terrible.
On Black Friday, he threw
Now
more
people like Zach Wilson a little more, huh?
touchdown. So to me, they should just, I said this Friday in studio, just play Zach Wilson, because he's better than Trevor Siemian. He's better than Tim Boyle. At least you also get the athleticism aspect from Zach Wilson. You get nothing from Boyle or Siemian. Falcons win this one easily. Take it while it's 3. I think that's a good number. And we're starting to see now. You saw how the Falcons really leaned on a very good Saints defensive front. We saw Algier have success. He really was running with a passion. Then we saw them finally utilize Bijan Robinson as in the run game and also in the passing game. I think this one may get ugly for Gang Green.
A lot of things have been ugly for Gang Green. All right, the Dolphins laying 9.5 at the Commanders. This total 49.5. This is one that has moved and will probably continue to move. Look ahead was 6.5. Open was between 7.5. It's already gone up. I mean, the Dolphins are just an offensive juggernaut, if you will. Commanders can't seem to stop anyone. Washington also 0-1-1 against the spread as a home underdog this season. 0-4-1 against the spread overall at FedEx. I'd go ahead and lay this 9.5 with the Dolphins. I could see this creeping up past double digits. Emory.
Be wary, because we saw them get rid of their defensive coordinator. We don't know what the defense will look like under Ron Rivera. We have an idea, but we don't really know what he has in store for this Dolphins team. So there's a bit of an unknown for Miami coming to this ballgame. Not saying they're not going to win. Sorry?
Paddleboat Ron?
Exactly, right, because it ain't the riverboat, Chesapeake Bay Ron. So you watch how they call things. Maybe they dial up a little bit more pressure. Maybe they play a little bit more zone. Either way, I would probably lean toward just the under here. That's
a big total, man.
Yeah, it's a big total because, again, Sam Howell, we like the idea of Sam Howell throwing the ball all over the yard, but he's going to get sacked a lot. Granted, they're going to be without Phillips, who has the Achilles, and they're going to need Bradley Chubb and Van Ginkel and all those guys to really step up and rush the pass on the opposite side. So there's some intrigue here. I just think the under is probably the best play than that 9.5.
Yeah, the one thing I would be worried about here with the under, and I agree with you. I was like, I saw the matchup. I was like, oh, it'd be like 45.5. I was like, oh, 49.5. My goodness. The one thing I would worry about is you get a Washington team that is just cannot stop anybody. And Miami does what Dallas did last week. Washington on a getting 10 days, but Miami getting 9 days. And the Dolphins just put up 40 points. Like the Dolphins put up 40 plus points, and then Washington finds their way to 14, which I think they could do against this defense. I also heard Adam Schefter say earlier on Monday that watch out, maybe the Dolphins could be a candidate to claim Derek Barnett off waivers to try and supplement the loss of Jalen Phillips. So I mean, that would at least help. And I mean, they got plenty of talent in that defense. Like the defense is starting to cook. The question is, will Miami be content just scoring in the 30s? If so, then I like this under. If not, then I would worry a little bit. But
and also when you are, I mean, it feels like they have the AFC East locked up, right?
Oh yeah.
And so if you're the Dolphins and you have playoff position you're still playing for, how quickly do you pull guys out of this ball game?
Well, right? You know what? We actually saw, and I know this because I had a massive DFS showdown swing as a result of this. I needed Raheem Mostert to do stuff, and they pulled him for what's his name? Duran. Darrington Evans. Jesus, I was going to call him Daryl Evanston. I don't even know who the hell. I don't think that's a real name. I might write that down though as a pseudonym. They pulled him for Darrington Evans, and Darrington Evans immediately fumbled, and the Jets go down and score. And so the Dolphins put Mostert back in. He scrambled for that touchdown. But so, like, I agree with you. I think that's what they want to do. They want to rest these guys. That's why Devin Atchan isn't playing in this, like, isn't playing much, because they want to save everybody for the playoffs. They are, according to the Upshot, 99% to make the playoffs and 97% to win the division. Like, it's on lock. You just got to make sure everybody gets to the postseason healthy. So I think, to your point, yeah, that could certainly factor in to the under possibly being a look here. All right. Let's take a break. When we come back, the Carolina Panthers fired their coach. We talked about it already. What will it mean for their line and the against the spread performance against the Buccaneers? We'll tell you next. All right, welcome back to the Big Six Podcast. Looking at early lines for Week 13 games, and we've got a scorcher in the NFC South. The Carolina Panthers at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Look at line was Buccaneers -6. We get Buccaneers -5.5. Maybe drifting back towards the Panthers. Pretty obvious spot here. Dead cat bounce. You fire the head coach who's calling the plays. You fire the quarterback's coach and Josh McCown. You fire Deuce Staley, the running backs coach. It was reported too, by the way, that Staley and McCown were fired. It was the choice of the interim head coach and Jim Caldwell to move on from those guys as well, which sort of leads me to think there might have been some major infighting between the various factions. Like in the coaching staff, and maybe we didn't know enough about that. Prop, you like maybe a Rashad White look here against.
I love Rashad White.
Panthers run defense is stanky.
Indeed, Brinson. Yeah, Rashad White quietly has been really solid, getting things done through the air, on the ground. 6 of his last 7 games, he's totaled over 100 scrimmage yards or rushing plus receiving yards. He's been very ineffective to open the year. We were picking on him a lot as far as the unders and his props were concerned, but he's really turned a corner. The Bucs have actually been fairly balanced as well, despite being as inefficient as they are. They still run the football a good deal. They're committed to Rashad White, and really the depth chart behind him is ugly, so he gets the lion's share of the looks here. And against your Panthers, Brinson, their rush defense is as bad as any run defense in the league. So I expect the Bucs to be balanced, to be successful running the football, and I think Rashad White props will certainly be in play this week.
He's going to be chalky for DFS for sure.
Yes. I feel like he's been inching his way up to that. All right, the game we've all been waiting for, the 49ers laying 2.5. I believe this line has changed to
Browns
3
at
already. What?
Browns at Rams? The game we've all been waiting for?
The game we have all been waiting for, the Browns at the Rams. Niners at Eagles. Niners laying, it still says 2. Oh, we're FanDuel. It's 3 on DK.
Hey, is this the game of the year now? Does this supplant Buffalo and Philly, which previously it was like Buffalo, KC?
Well, it depends on how good this game is. You know, if one team is blowing out the other. I mean, the thing that was so good about this Bills and Eagles team, it had everything. It had everything. It was so back and forth. And then, the Bills just, I don't know why I'm such a Josh Allen apologist, but I feel bad for him for some reason. But anyways, this line opened up as at 1 or 1.5. It's already gone to 3 in some spots, 2.5 on FanDuel. So if you like the 49ers, I would grab it now, just like Emory said, because it seems like this line is going to move. And I think this game has been circled on the calendar, obviously, for the teams and for the fan bases. I think the Eagles team and the fan bases want to be like, it's not because your quarterback went down. We are a better team. Would have beat you then. We're going to beat you now. And of course, the 49ers are saying you only beat us because of the quarterback situation. So now that everybody's healthy, it should be a very, very interesting and good matchup. The Eagles have been outgained by at least 98 yards in 4 straight games. But again, they just keep finding ways to win here. They're 7-1 in single score games this season. 5 of those wins came against teams 500 or worse. Niners offense, number 1 in DVOA, number 1 in the passing game, and the Eagles are 19th against the pass and trending downward. Y'all already know I like the Niners team total over 23.5. And also, if you like the 49ers, you can lay these 2 points where I'd grab them. They were minus 120 on the money line. Now it's like all the way up to like minus 150. If this line keeps growing, that keeps growing. So I don't hate Niners money line. But Alex, Prop, you are an Eagles fan, but are you worried about a classic letdown spot for the Eagles here?
I am. I think this is just going to be a tough spot for my Eagles. 2 highly emotional victories, winning at Arrowhead, then at home against the Bills in overtime, both games. And then we have a 49ers team coming off of 10 days rest, dating back to the NFC Championship game last year. They still have a bad taste in their mouth. I know, obviously, both teams are going to be up for this. I just think this is a spot where the 49ers just really – everything points in their favor outside of it being in Philadelphia. So I think the line is right at 2.5 or 3 points, and I tend to lean towards the 49ers here. But I still have to back my guys, Katie. So we do have to figure out some type of bet that we can get creative with.
Well, and for me, it's like no lead going into the half seems to be too great for these Eagles. So if the 49ers want to win this game, they better show up and shut them down in the second half. Jalen Hurts was phenomenal in that second half. I had said a trolling comment on Twitter that had a lot of people tweeting at me angrily about Josh Allen rushing touchdowns, because you know how I feel about the tush push. It's not that I don't think it's a touchdown. I just don't think it should be attributed to Jalen Hurts. I think it should be a team touchdown, but that's neither here nor there.
By the way, for the Niners to get the number 1 seed, obviously the Eagles are 10-1. This is a pretty pivotal game. If the Niners, according to the upshot, if the Niners lose this game, they have a 1% chance of getting the number 1 seed. If they win this game, it goes from 21% down to 1% if they lose, 21% up to 37% if they win. So if you are hoping for, and I mean, like the bottom line is you can't overstate how important the number 1 overall seed is in the modern NFL when they've expanded the playoffs and only one team gets a bye. You can say, oh, you want momentum going in. Nah, if you're the best team in football and you get a bye and you have to play one less game, that is enormous. So this game carries a ton of weight. I tend to like the Niners too, just because. Well, you know what? If everybody's, I'll tell you what the difference is too. Trent Williams is the left side, what Lane Johnson is the right side. Like Lane Johnson, the Eagles offense is struggling with Lane Johnson out of there, and they got it going, of course. But like, I would not be surprised. I think Lane Johnson will probably play in this game, and that they sat him out on Sunday night knowing that this game is everything for the number 1 seed. Like playing Buffalo is huge. You want to win, but it ultimately doesn't really matter for your seeding. Like, so I think if Lane Johnson goes here, I'm much more inclined to take the points, but if no Lane Johnson, definitely 49ers.
Yeah. Should be a fun one.
120 by 53rd and the third. Y'all talk about all the feelings, emotions. I'm going to keep it right on the grass. Eagles have the best quarterback in this ball game. That goes to if the game comes down to
nobody's going to argue that.
Well, no, who you need to make a play and who palms won't get sweaty. We've seen that happen in a situation with Purdy earlier in the year in Minnesota. The other part of this field, this matchup, the Eagles might be the only team in the NFC that can match physicality with San Francisco and what they do up front. Giants did defensively, but their offense was non-existent, right? 49ers had to work a little bit harder moving the ball against the Giants earlier in the season. The Browns, we know how that game ended up. The 49ers really had issues against the physical Browns nature on both sides of the ball. But in the NFC, by far, it's the Eagles who was able to match that. And Will brought up the point. If Lane Johnson plays, I think it's easier to play with the banged up groin in ideal conditions, as opposed to on a slick, wet field where sudden movements could tear that thing right off the bone. And special teams, you have to side with the Eagles here. I think the Eagles have the best collective special teams unit. That is going to be the most important aspect of this ball game. So I feel like we're going to see, field position early on, and then as it happens more often than not in the fourth quarter, it's about who can make the plays consistently. I like the Eagles here to win. So yes, take them on a money line. Why is plus money? It has nothing to do with emotions or anything, in my opinion. Nothing to do with emotions.
I gave stats, bro. It wasn't all emotion.
Yeah, they're emotion-based stats. So I will say this though, when you brought up those hurt stats, look at his stats against teams that are over 500. He's still phenomenal. So this is something that I think, and I don't want to, speak for Sirianni, but I feel like he was saving some things for San Francisco.
Hey, saving Lane Johnson for it. I mean, it's the number one seed.
And also to, make a case for San Francisco, what adds a little bit more intrigue is now you just can't worry about Bosa. You have to worry about Chase. And that is huge. But Hufanga will be missed in this ball game.
Yeah.
His play versus the run is vital. So great game. I'm glad this one is at 4:20. I wish it could have been a primetime game.
I know.
I like the Eagles.
Well, I guess and Props, you had something to go ahead. Sorry.
I just wanted to real quick say the Eagles have a lot of significant injuries right now as well. I would definitely argue the 49ers are the healthier football team. Pretty much every position group for the Eagles has a significant injury. Dallas Goedert, Lane Johnson, Fletcher Cox, Zach Cunningham.
Goddard's supposed to play this week.
Yeah, I mean, like the Fletcher Cox thing is huge. Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter have been incredible, but if you have to ask them to be like totally full-time guys, I think you could wear them down, particularly with that offensive line and the way that the counter schemes and everything forces you to chase when you're up against the Niners offense. The Dallas Goedert's a big deal. I don't think the 49ers can match necessarily as much in the back end as they'd like, but if Lane Johnson's hurt and not out there, then the pass rush gets home faster. It's more difficult to get A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith open. So, like, I think the injury report for this one, and I agree with you. If this game were on CBS, I'd say screw primetime, but it's on Fox. I agree with you. I wish it was on primetime.
But I'll say this one quick thing, and I'm done. You know what we wouldn't have heard if the Eagles lost to the Bills? We wouldn't have heard about all these injuries. It would have been Jalen Hurts' loss, right? Just like we see the cape for Herbert and Allen, and who we know all of the Chargers scout reports and history injury reports. For Hurts and Lamar, is you better win that game. So with that type of pressure on those guys' shoulders, those injuries don't matter to them. They got to find a way to win.
All right, Browns at the Rams. Excuse me. The Rams are -4.5. Man, over to 39.5. I actually think that I might change my anticipation play to this. I think this, you see 4.5 -115. I wouldn't be surprised if this got up to like 6. I mean, PJ Walker has been, I think he's the lowest in terms of EPA per play in the entire NFL, behind like Tommy DeVito and even like Bryce Young. I mean, just not great stuff. DTR, I would assume, would he have with concussion? Was it concussion?
Man, he had a concussion. He had a bust slip. It really knocked everything
I'd just be surprised if they rolled him back out there that quick. We only seen Brock Purdy's the only guy to clear concussion protocol in a week. So I'm a fan of the Rams in this spot. Look at it was Rams -1, open Rams -3. So it's already moved up a full 1.5. Rams defense playing well and can certainly put the pressure on this Cleveland team that's suddenly banged up. And I'm worried may just fall out of the playoffs because like you can only withstand so many injuries, and they have lost both starting tackles, an all-pro running back, and a $230 million quarterback who played his best game when he suffered a season-ending injury. So I like the Rams in this spot for sure. The 39.5 makes me a little skeptical. Matthew Stafford is playing well enough that I think they can cover that. And I just don't see how Cleveland can really storm through the back door here.
I got to give a shout out to Kieran Williams, who the Rams got back in their backfield. Absolutely phenomenal. If he played the Cardinals every week, he would look like a prime LaDainian Tomlinson. He's got, I think, close to 400 scrimmage yards in 2 games and 4 touchdowns going against Arizona. But yeah, he obviously gave an extra dimension to this Rams team that looked very good with him in the backfield. And while he was healthy, we saw this Rams team not look nearly as good without him. So I think that's a big boost to the Rams offense. And I think he's going to continue to be highly, highly productive in that backfield.
All right, last game, the Chiefs laying 6.5 at the Packers. This total 42.5. Looks like things have stayed the same. Packers looked pretty good against the Lions. Jordan Love has had a bit of a resurgence over the last couple games. Emory, you feel like this game could be back and forth because Packers are looking a little bit better and the Chiefs are looking not as good.
You see what happens when you have just a little confidence in yourself and your game. You look at what the Raiders did. Came out like gangbusters. Like Chiefs be damn, logo be damn. We're throwing deep down the field. We're going to attack this secondary and this defense. If the Packers can have that same type of confidence, just like they showed against the Lions, like they came out guns, first play of the game, deep shot, like keep that confidence up. I could see this one being 24-20, to be honest. So I like the over here because I feel like the Packers are starting to believe a little bit offensively, and the Chiefs, while I love their D-line, and they'll get to Jordan Love, but on the other side of that pressure, there's some deep shots to be had, and we'll see how Rashee Rice is starting to, he's really starting to come into his own, looking like the SMU version of what they drafted. So could be prime for a nice scoring total to go over.
Yeah, Rice, it was a situation where they finally, I think, gave him, I don't know what his total snap count was, but they actually used him in the second half against the Raiders. They got desperate after just going 50%, like back and forth. It feels like maybe they're going to say bleep it and just lean in on the rookie. And maybe that's good. You don't overload him early on in the season. You let him build up and get ready, and then he has a great run down the stretch.
All right. Oh wait, we got some props.
I'm actually good, Kitty.
You want to take a lap on Rashee Rice?
I'm always willing to take a victory lap. Yeah. So, but yeah, good to see Rashee Rice. Obviously, best game of the year, heavily targeted from a volume standpoint. There, still hasn't cracked a 60% snap share though, so still a lot of upside there. I think you're spot on, Brinson. I just don't think he's going to get that at this stage of the season where he's at right now. The Chiefs would just rather platoon the position and kind of save him down the stretch. So not overloading him, I think, is kind of what they're doing here. So counting on that additional upside, I think, is not the right idea right now for the time being, at least.
But Props, how do you feel about Jordan Love though? I mean, are you liking him for anything? Are you liking him over his passing yards? Is that something that you play over his attempts? What have you seen that would be good bets for Jordan Love moving forward?
I've been encouraged by Jordan Love. I think if you look at his season as a whole, it's been, a roller coaster, up and down, up and down. I think the last 3-game stretch, he's averaging close to 300 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. He's definitely distributing the ball. They don't have a true number one guy there. Obviously, Christian Watson was last year, but that just hasn't translated this year. They have a lot of young, good looking pass catchers and wide receivers. They have a good rookie tight end as well. Against this Chiefs defense, though, I think this Chiefs defense is a tough matchup for Jordan Love. And while he's played well, I do think this is a potential letdown spot. So I'll actually probably look to fade him against the Chiefs.
Okay, makes a lot of sense. All right, guys, that's going to do it for our show. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure you join us all week long for more NFL coverage. Tomorrow, Brinson, Breach, and Wilson are joined by Pete Prisco to break down his weekly power rankings on CBSSports.com. One last reminder to show us some love with a like, comment, or a subscribe. We appreciate the subscribe on our YouTube page. If you're listening to the audio version only, do the same. Download, follow, leave a 5-star review. Tell your friends to listen and watch the pod. We will, the Pick Show people will see you Thursday, but you'll see Brinson tomorrow.